What's going on, guys? Hold My Helmet Football Podcast. Will Reichling here. We have some recent news in the last couple of weeks. Couple of things to break down here. Post NFL draft. I'm a little sick of the Shedeur Sanders talk, so I have to kind of move on here. Sadly, we'll probably get back to Shedeur Sanders eventually later on in the offseason, but right now there's been a couple of things that have developed, and what is the aftermath of these developments? So first and foremost, George Pickens. George Pickens going to the Dallas Cowboys. He was traded for a third-round pick, so the Steelers got a third-round pick for George Pickens. They traded a second-round pick to get DK Metcalf. They bring in Metcalf. We're all thinking, okay, Aaron Rodgers might be coming in. He gets DK Metcalf and George Pickens, Freiermuth as tight end. They have a pretty decent offense here. Mike Tomlin's like, nope, get George Pickens out of town. So clearly something was going on here where Mike Tomlin was pretty much tired of all the on-field, because there's not really much off-field antics when it comes to George Pickens. A lot of it's on-field. We get to go through all the fines that he's gotten in his short NFL career. So I think Tomlin was just done with it. And we know when Tomlin's done with a player, usually that's a bad sign. It's a big-time red flag. I mean, how many players has Mike Tomlin let go and their career washes away? Le'Veon Bell, who sat out an entire season, and then goes to the Jets, complete disaster. Antonio Brown, who won the Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Bucks, so I can't really shit on Antonio Brown, but that kind of went down the wasteland pretty quickly. Martavis Bryant, we really never even heard of him again after that. He was on the Cowboys recently, but clearly he didn't mount to much in his career. Chase Claypool got traded to Chicago for a second-round pick, completely fleeced them by Steelers by getting that second-round pick. He's been a nobody. Went to Miami, was a nobody. Pretty much almost out of the league at this point. And then Deontay Johnson last year. Deontay Johnson went from the Panthers to the Ravens. I don't know. He went to I think the Texans at one point, back to the Ravens. It was a shit show after he got traded from the Steelers. So it's not like the Steelers just can't handle wide receivers, can't handle personalities, and can't handle divas, and then they just ship them away. There's something to this. When the Steelers move on from you, that's a big-time problem. Because think about it, Mike Tomlin dealt with these personalities. He dealt with Antonio Brown. He dealt with Le'Veon Bell, dealt with Martavis Bryant, dealt with Claypool, Deontay Johnson, and had success with them. And once he traded them away, there wasn't much success anymore. There really wasn't. So for me, I really don't think that's necessarily going to be the case for George Pickens. I think Pickens is going to match up well with CeeDee Lamb on the other side. CeeDee Lamb is more of he can do it all, right? Yards after catch. He can catch a screen ball. He can line up in the backfield and take a toss to the house. He can go deep. He can run a route over the middle. He's one of the best route runners in the league. So CeeDee Lamb's the complete package, right? George Pickens, he is probably one of the best 50-50 ball catchers in the league. 50-50 ball, and he's one-on-one with a corner. He's going to catch the ball. He's going to come down with it. He is probably the best hands in the league. I mean, Odell's still in the league, but George Pickens is right up there, right? He is, in my opinion, I've always thought George Pickens has been a little overrated. Not underrated, overrated. To me, he's been a little overrated. He makes a lot of explosive plays. If you look at his yards per reception and the yards after the catch, the yards per reception is pretty large, okay? Like, it's over 15 yards per reception. He makes big plays down the field, big plays down the sideline. The moon ball with Russell Wilson last season, a couple of years before that. I mean, Pickens has shown that he's a big time playmaker. He make big plays down the field in critical moments in the game. The thing is, I don't think he's great at creating separation. He's not a great route runner. He's fast, but he's not a burner. And he really relies on his hands a lot. So, I don't think he creates separation the way that, in his prime Cooper Kupp did, or, Stephon Diggs, or the way CeeDee Lamb does now. He's not a separator. He's not a great route runner. He's not going to be getting open on a top corner in the league. Say Revis or Champ Bailey's covering him. I don't think he's going to be getting open. Maybe makes a great catch on the sideline, but it's completely contested. So, in a way, kind of matches up well with CeeDee Lamb, because CeeDee Lamb does everything else. Yards after the catch, screen passes, tosses out of the backfield, goddammit. I mean, he could probably take a streak to the house, too. CeeDee Lamb is your yards after the catch guy. So you need a guy that's big body, long arms, can go downfield, catch a 50-50 ball in the end zone. That's what you needed. So, yes, you added a key piece that you needed if you're Dallas, but you traded away a third-round pick. And this is the last year of his rookie contract. So you're either going to franchise tag him after this, or you're going to pay him a long-term deal. You already paid CeeDee Lamb a long-term deal. Dak Prescott has the highest average annual value in the league. So you're kind of tied in the corner here. You pay for him. You're almost kind of thinking like you're in a win-now situation, but you don't really have the roster around it to win now. Like, yes, your offense is improved. CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jake Ferguson. You get some young running backs in there and from the draft. The offense is looking good. You got Dak Prescott back from injury, who was an MVP candidate a few seasons ago. Making $60 million per year, though. That's a big problem. He's making $60 million per year. You got CeeDee Lamb, who just got paid one of the highest contracts in wide receiver history. Your offense is looking okay. You drafted Booker, the guard. So your offense is looking decent, right? But your defense, is your defense going to bounce back from last season? They drafted some pieces, but I'm still not confident in that. So let's say if trading for George Pickens for a third-round pick with his rookie contract expiring is like a win-now mode situation, especially when you just paid CeeDee Lamb. You paid CeeDee Lamb, and now you're going out and you're trading for George Pickens. To me, that screams like, okay, this is a team that's in win-now mode, but I don't think the Cowboys are going to win the division. I don't think the Cowboys are going to come in second place in the division. You get the Eagles and the Commanders. So now that you're a fringe wild card team, maybe you win a playoff game if you're lucky. In a good season, I think most analysts would predict that Dallas wins one playoff game. That is an optimistic season for Dallas. So now, even in an optimistic season, George Pickens, honestly, best case scenario, he has a great year, 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns. Dallas wins a playoff game. Now what? You're going to franchise tag him? Okay, that's fine. Eventually, you're going to have to pay him. And if you just keep franchise tagging them for 2 years, guess what? Are you really going to win a Super Bowl in the next 2 years? You need to kind of build up a little bit more. And so this is kind of like a win-now move for a purgatory team. A win-now move for a team that's average, maybe good in the most optimistic scenario of a season possible. But it's not. The move doesn't match up with what the Dallas Cowboys are. It's a win-now move for a team that's not a win-now roster. So is it what the Cowboys needed? Yes. Is it a good fit for this offense? Yes. Will George Pickens probably produce? Yes, he will. But even with Brian Schottenheimer being your head coach, this is not a win-now team. It's just not. So do I like Pickens on the Cowboys? I do. But you're telling me you gave up a third for him? Look, the Steelers drafted him for a second. But if I'm the Steelers, you just traded Metcalf. You gave away a second. You traded for DK Metcalf, who's a better player, in my opinion, and I think most analysts' opinion, than George Pickens, who has produced more, has had more 1,000-yard seasons, has had double-digit touchdown seasons. Where Pickens, last year, I think, he had 5 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns. He hasn't produced the way Metcalf has. So you bring in Metcalf, you lose a second, but then you get a third back and you trade away Pickens. So you kind of almost get your pick back. Not exactly, because a second and a third is a pretty big difference there. But you get a pick back that's close enough. You get a better receiver. You trade out the toxicity. I hear DK Metcalf could be a little bit of a head case too, but I don't think the way Pickens is. And Metcalf has shown to produce in this league. So Steelers just a win-win here. Cowboys, you get a good player in there, and it fits in your offense, but you give up a third-round pick. You're not in a win-now situation. A little bit of a confusing move for Dallas. So it kind of shows that you have an old, kooky owner. This is a kooky, old owner move. This is not a move the Eagles would make. This is not a move the Rams would make. This is not a move the Chiefs would make. This isn't a move the Lions would make. This is a move that a team that's desperate to, one, put stars in the field because they got a big brand, the Dallas Cowboys, and 2, to go out there and win games now because 5 years from now, Jerry Jones might not be alive. I know the picks for next year. Next year, Jerry Jones might not be alive. So he's trying to put together the best team now. But he's also has an ego because you let go of Mike McCarthy, or you kind of just let him walk, and you hire his offensive coordinator who's been in the league for 10 years and has shown, if you're an offensive coordinator in the league for 10 years and you don't become head coach, something's wrong. It's an offensive league. Everyone wants an offensive head coach that can call their own plays, and you didn't get an offensive head coach job. It's like, red flag right there. I'm waving the red flag. I would not be hiring Brian Schottenheimer to even be my offensive coordinator, let alone my head coach. So, yeah, remember, Mike McCarthy was calling plays last season, not Brian Schottenheimer. Now Brian Schottenheimer has to go back to calling plays, and he has to coach the team. He has to rally the troops. He has to tell Micah Parsons, let's go, get motivated, get back in the game. So, it's a little bit of a weird situation here for Dallas. You bring in a guy that you needed more weapons. You got more weapons. But then you lose the third round pick. You don't have a great head coach. Dak's coming off an injury. Dallas is probably going to miss the playoffs this season. Are you really going to bring back Pickens after that? Are you going to bring back Pickens after you miss the playoffs and he only catches, 50 balls for 700, 800 yards? Are you going to franchise tag him after that? Probably not. So now you just trade away a third round pick and you're going to lose a good player too. So that is a kooky old owner move. It just screams that for me. Another big time news here. Derek Carr of the Saints retires. I mean, wasn't really expecting that. You were hearing in the offseason that, his shoulder, it's possible he might not be coming back. I thought that was kind of a leverage negotiation move to get traded or get cut so he could go to a team that kind of wants him, contender team. But no, he retired. And Derek Carr's legacy is a little weird because he was a good player. 2016, he was borderline MVP. I think he threw 40 touchdown passes. Gets hurt. They make the playoffs. Gets hurt. Can't even start the playoff game. So they have, forgot his name, but pretty much nobody start that playoff game. Finally does make the playoffs a few years later with Gruden. I mean, actually, Gruden got fired. Had Bisaccia, the special teams coach, makes the playoffs, loses. Career playoff record 0-1. 0-1. Has made one playoff game in his career and lost. He might be one of the better quarterbacks of all time that never made a. No, let me rephrase that. He's probably one of the better, not best, one of the better quarterbacks of all time that's never won a playoff game. I'm sure there's better quarterbacks, more talented quarterbacks that haven't won a playoff game, but he's got to be on that list. What was he, a 9-time starter in Oakland / Las Vegas, and turmoil all around him his whole career. And you saw when he was younger, before he got that big injury in 2016, he was a baller. He had a big arm, was aggressive down the field. And then kind of after that, he wasn't really the same. Kind of towards the end of his career, became a little bit of a check down Charlie. But he was a good quarterback, not great. I mean, his legacy, there's not really much legacy there. I mean, he was a better quarterback than his brother, David, who actually was more hyped than him. David was number 1 overall. Derek was the second round. So definitely. And I think of his draft class, there was a couple of people in his draft class that he outperformed. And so Derek Carr definitely was a hit for the Raiders. 9-year starter, couple-time Pro Bowler. I don't know if this is the end for him yet because, teams get desperate. But, I don't think he can play this season because he's under contract. So it's a little bit of a weird situation. But, Derek Carr's gone now. The Saints have no quarterback. Jake Hayner, I think his name is. Spencer Rattler, who was terrible last season. So, if you're the Saints, what do you do now? What do you do now? Who is there out there? Who's out there to call? Who's out there? I mean, you selected Tyler Shuck in the second round, which is a little bit of a reach. He's 25, old, not crazy old, but old. Bounced around colleges and finally got some experience under him. And he played well last season. He has a great arm, absolutely great arm, different arm angles. We have to think about this a little bit. There's been so many situations where there's a quarterback that bounced around in college, finally got it going. Later, after a couple, past the 4 seasons, maybe season 5, season 6, gets drafted in the first round, complete bust. Brandon Whedon's one of them, 28 years old, coming into the league, complete bust. But then you have a Bo Nix situation like last season, who was he was also, I think, 25, had 5 seasons in college, and he went to the NFL, and he's been playing very well. Made the playoffs last season. So it could go either way, but to me, gut feeling, you're bouncing around the league. Not the league. You're bouncing around college football. You don't really find a home. You don't really star any season. I don't see him coming into the NFL and all of a sudden being a top 15 quarterback. I don't. And this kind of plays into where this whole entire episode's heading. Aaron Rodgers. What is he going to do now? Because you were throwing the ball with DK Metcalf a couple weeks ago. Everyone was talking about you going to the Steelers. Maybe after this episode drops, he'll be signed. You're hearing he might get signed by the Steelers any day. But now, they trade George Pickens. They trade George Pickens away. Okay? So now your receiving core is Metcalf, who's great. Calvin Austin, Freiermuth. I mean, there's not much. Now you just lost a big-time receiver. The Saints, Derek Carr retiring. So now George Pickens getting traded from the Steelers and Derek Carr retiring from the Saints. If I'm the New Orleans Saints, I'm making a call to Aaron Rodgers. They would be stupid not to. First off, I think the Saints have better offensive weapons than the Steelers. Chris Olave, who needs to stay healthy, we all know that. Rashid Shaheed, big-time big-time playmaker down the field. Alvin Kamara still looks like a big-time player. Juwan Johnson can score touchdowns. They have players. Taysom Hill, the versatile X factor out of tight end backfield, who knows where. The Saints, I think, have more offensive weapons. When it comes to defense, it's close. I'd probably give it to Steelers, but the Steelers also need some corners. The Saints just traded Lattimore too, but the Saints, I think, also have a decent defense. Okay, so the Saints and Steelers, yeah, they have the better defense. I would take the Saints' offensive weapons. What's going to turn, honestly, what makes me, if I'm Aaron Rodgers, pick the Saints over the Steelers the most? The division and the conference you're playing in. If you go to the Steelers and you play in the AFC, you have, specifically the AFC North, you have Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow in your division. You're automatically the third best quarterback in your division, no matter what. Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson are better quarterbacks than Aaron Rodgers. So automatically, you are the third best quarterback in your division. Don't forget about Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, CJ Stroud, Justin Herbert, who are all better quarterbacks than you. I would take all of those quarterbacks over Aaron Rodgers at this point. So automatically, at best, you're probably like the 8th, 9th best quarterback in your own conference. At best. You go to the NFC, now you're in the NFC South. The Tampa Bay Bucks, yes, Baker Mayfield's a better quarterback right now. I would take Baker all day over Rodgers. Bryce Young, Michael Penix. I like Michael Penix a lot, but he hasn't proven anything. Realistically, you're the second best quarterback in that division. And I would not be surprised if Rodgers puts up similar numbers to Baker Mayfield next season if he's on the Saints. I wouldn't be surprised. I think Baker Mayfield's a better quarterback, but I would not be surprised at all. So now, better situation with division and better conference situation. Yeah, Jaden Daniels is great. You got Jalen Hurts, Goff, Stafford. You got Jordan Love. You have some players, Kyler Murray, in that division, in that conference. But if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'd rather compete against, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Goff, Stafford, Michael Penix. You got a Jackson Dart situation, Dak Prescott. You got quarterbacks like that too, Bryce Young, instead of Lamar, Allen, Burrow, Herbert, Stroud, Tua, Mahomes. There's so many quarterbacks in the AFC, and the NFC is finally starting to build up quarterbacks the way the AFC did. But if I'm Aaron Rodgers, you're in a winnable division in the NFC South. Baker has been carrying the Bucs a little bit with injuries, but all the Bucs have to do is lose a few players, and boom, you're fighting for a division with the Bucs. So if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm thinking long and hard before I just say, I'm going to the Steelers. Because now that opportunity that you've been waiting for has finally opened up. You have a team that has, in my opinion, better offensive weapons. They are in a better division, more suitable division for you, and a more suitable conference. And last but not least, look, Mike Tomlin is a better head coach than Kellen Moore. I'm not going to argue that. I'm not going to go into that anymore. Kellen Moore has never coached a game as head coach. I understand that. I'm not stupid. I'm not trying to make a crazy take. But Aaron Rodgers being 40, 41 years old, I think would benefit from having an offensive play caller as head coach than a defensive CEO type head coach. I think having a offensive head coach that will call his own plays will be more beneficial than having a Mike Tomlin CEO type head coach. Having another Matt LaFleur like he did in Green Bay will be beneficial to Aaron Rodgers. So I think the same situation lines up a lot more than the Pittsburgh Steelers situation for Aaron Rodgers. So if I'm Rodgers, I'm thinking long and hard about just going to the Steelers without questioning, should I go to the Saints instead? Should I go back to the NFC instead? So if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I would think about that.